There will be postseason softball this week in Norman, Oklahoma. Can you believe it? The postseason is here. The pairings are out. Sunday night, we found out exactly where Oklahoma's going to be. No surprise, Norman Regional. They'll be at home if they make it to a Super Regional. The number 2 overall seed, Oklahoma Sooners. What'd you think about the number 2 overall seed? What do you think about the overall draw in the regional, super regional potential matchup as well? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel. But before we look at the regionals, before we even look at a potential super regional matchup, I just want to say that the number 2 overall seed, and we know everything that was lost, everything that's so new with this team coming into this year. You got to enjoy the journey. You got to enjoy the ride a little bit. I know what the expectations are around here. I know they're super high, higher than anybody else in college softball, but you got to appreciate the special moments along the way. And getting the number 2 overall seed with such a young team, with such a new team, is an incredible accomplishment. I know some of you are a little upset that they didn't get the number 1 overall seed. To me, number 2 overall seed, I think that this team is in a great spot to make it back to Oklahoma City and to push for another national championship. And that's what I want to appreciate today, the fact that you just lost the most incredible class in college softball history, yet here we are, the week of regionals, talking about this team as the number 2 overall seed and maybe the overall favorite to win the national championship once again. Just says a lot about this program, says a lot about this team, a lot about the coaching staff. It's pretty awesome and pretty amazing that we're about to say the things that we're about to say in this video, because it's been a great season. SEC regular season champs, SEC tournament co-champs, which still feels a little weird to say, but this team is in prime position once again, and like you guys, I'm really, really excited. The number 2 overall seed, Oklahoma Sooners. All right, let's take a look at the Norman Regional, and I got to say, guys, I am extremely happy with the draw across the board. Norman Regional, Oklahoma, of course, the 1 seed, Cal, the 2 seed, Omaha, the 3 seed, and Boston University, the 4 seed, who, and this was pretty hilarious yesterday, once Boston was announced that they're headed to Norman, there were a few of their players that did the surrender cobra on live television. It was called out at the time. That was pretty good. That's the power of Oklahoma softball right now. OU and Boston University Friday at 5 p.m. And then you'll have the 2 and 3 seeds, Cal and Omaha, at 2:30 p.m. Right before OU and Boston University play. Again, love the regional draw. And you should love the regional draw if you're the number 2 overall seed in the tournament. And I think when you look across the board, OU is clearly the better team. Now, nothing is given at this time of the year. Nothing is given. But when you look at the other 3 teams in the Norman Regional, you say, look, if Oklahoma plays good softball, certainly we hope that they're still peaking at this time and playing better and better and better. But the best version of Oklahoma softball, still a very good version of Oklahoma softball. You know, you never want to say something's just going to be easy, but OU should handle the Norman Regional if they come out and play good ball. Cal's the 2 seed, and they're 35-19 on the year. 11-13 in ACC play this year. Cal got swept by Florida State. Cal got swept by Clemson, and they actually got run-ruled by Georgia Tech in the first game of the ACC tournament. 7th in batting average in the ACC, 10th in ERA in the ACC. So maybe Cal comes in and plays spectacular softball, but that's a very, very good 2-seed draw that Oklahoma got in the Norman Regional. And again, if you're the number 2 overall seed, these are the things that we should be saying today. That, man, Oklahoma got a good-looking regional draw, no potential, team that just got hot at the end of the year, nothing like that. Like, Cal's a good softball team, but they're going to have to play just incredibly well if they want to knock Oklahoma out of the Norman Regional. Same thing for Omaha, 39-11 on the year, 14-4 in the Summit League. They won their conference tournament, so maybe they're one of those teams that feel like they're heading into the Norman Regional playing their best softball. Split with KU and lost to Nebraska. So a couple of familiar foes that Omaha played in the regular season. Split with KU, who OU obviously played early on in the season, and lost to Nebraska earlier in the year. And then you got the 4 seed, Boston University, 39-17 overall. They were 14-4 in the Patriot League, won their conference tournaments, and they actually played a couple of SEC opponents in the regular season. OU won't be the first SEC team they'll play. They lost to both Kentucky and South Carolina in the regular season. But just to wrap up the Norman Regional, and we'll certainly go more in-depth the closer and closer we get to Friday. Very favorable regional draw, in my opinion, for Oklahoma. This is a regional where it's set up for you to really go out, take care of business, and maybe even flex a little bit on your path to a super regional. I'm going to say this multiple times this week. I've already said it once. Nothing is a guarantee. In fact, I think it's going to be a crazy postseason. Someone's going to get knocked out of their regional. Who do you think is most likely to be the team or the highest seed that loses in a home regional? Drop those thoughts in the comments. I'll have my thoughts as the week goes on. So nothing is guaranteed, but with what we've seen recently for Oklahoma, this should be a regional at home with great crowds that you handle. So not everyone in college softball is happy with their draw. I can tell you on this Monday morning that I'm very happy with the regional draw for Oklahoma. No Texas Tech, no Nebraska along the way to Oklahoma City, and certainly not in a regional. So the softball conspiracy theory in me got the best of me, I guess. I told you guys over the weekend that I thought all year long you'd have to face one or even both of them getting to Oklahoma City. No Texas Tech, no Nebraska in a regional matchup or even a potential super regional matchup. All right, let's look ahead to a potential super regional matchup in Norman. If OU gets out of the Norman regional, they'll be paired up with the winner of the Tuscaloosa regional. For the 20th consecutive year, the Alabama Crimson Tide will host a regional. And there are some of you out there, there are some people out there that aren't too happy with Alabama hosting a regional once again. And I can't say that I necessarily hate it. Clearly, they were in the discussion. The Tide, 37-21 on the year, 12-12 in SEC play. And, of course, we know that Oklahoma actually went out to Tuscaloosa and lost earlier this year, and it felt like it could potentially be one of the big turning points for this team. So I've seen some of you out there on social media, even in the comments of past videos, saying, you know what, there's the NCAA at it again. You know, they stick Oklahoma with the team as the number 2 overall seed. They stick Oklahoma with the team that they actually lost to in the regular season. That's certainly one way to look at it, and I do think that that could potentially be a very tough and very interesting matchup in a super regional. I actually have, though, the exact opposite thoughts about a potential matchup with Alabama in the supers. I actually really like it. I really like the potential matchup with Alabama in a super regional. And I like it for a few reasons. One, I like this team, and I've always liked this program in a revenge spot, in a bounce-back spot against the team that they lost to earlier in the year. This team hasn't forgotten that they lost to Alabama. I like the fact that this team probably wants to see Alabama again, get them back for what happened in Tuscaloosa. I like this team, definitely, and I've liked this program for a long time, playing someone in the postseason that you lost to earlier in the year. So I like that aspect of it. But maybe the biggest overall thing for me is this. Yes, you lost to Alabama 2 out of 3 games in Tuscaloosa. I think it's fair to say that judging by Alabama's resume, 37-21 overall, 12-12 in SEC play, you could make a very strong argument that those 3 games for Alabama were probably the best 3 games, in a series that they played all year long in the SEC. Like the best of what Alabama had to offer in the regular season, you could definitely make an argument they showed that against Oklahoma, and credit to them for doing so. Oklahoma, on the other hand, clearly that wasn't the case. I mean, it came down to Game 3, and Alabama hit a walk-off in extra innings. That game was very, very tight. 1 run to OU side. They had opportunities in Game 3. You were very, very close to winning that series in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma clearly did not play good softball that weekend, and what we just said about Alabama, or what I just said about Alabama, about maybe them playing their best softball in a series this year, you can make the exact opposite point to Oklahoma. Maybe they played their worst softball in an SEC series this year. So what's more likely to happen? Is Alabama more likely on the road in a super regional matchup to replicate what they did against Oklahoma? Or is it more likely that Oklahoma plays down to the level that they did last time they played in Tuscaloosa? Because here's what I think is going to happen if these two teams match up and both of these teams have to get out of their home regional. I think it's way more likely that Oklahoma plays much better and Alabama doesn't play as well as they did in the Tuscaloosa regional. Now, Alabama was also a team that went on the road last year and beat a Tennessee team in Knoxville that won the SEC regular season. So this program does have postseason pedigree. You got to give them up to that. But I would just have a hard time believing that Oklahoma is going to play the level of softball in Norman for a super regional that it played in Tuscaloosa. So there are many reasons, and those are just a couple where I say I like Oklahoma in that spot. If Alabama gets there, and there's no guarantee that Alabama even makes it out of the Tuscaloosa regional. I think Virginia Tech's a very good 2 seed. If we're talking about Oklahoma and Virginia Tech in a super regional a week from now, I can't say that I would be all that shocked. Belmont's the 3 seed in the Tuscaloosa regional. Jackson State is the 4 seed in that regional. Not an easy draw for Alabama in the Tuscaloosa regional. I'm still going to pick Bama to make it out of Tuscaloosa, and we are talking about an OU-Bama super regional coming up in a week's time. But if that's the case, I really like the spot that OU's in. And just another reason why I like that, this goes with the super regional matchup. This goes to a regional matchup coming up this week. I'm going to give you the most basic information possible about OU in the postseason, but I think it's going to make you feel good once you really, you already know this. I'm not breaking any news to you, but when you really think about this, Oklahoma, from here on out, Oklahoma has to lose twice to not make it to Oklahoma City. They'll have to lose twice in a regional at home. They'll have to lose twice in a 3-game series in a super regional at home. It's the most basic information I can give you, but when you really think about it with this team, it makes you feel pretty good. And yes, they've lost 2 out of 3 to Alabama this year. Yes, they even lost 2 out of 3 at home to Tennessee. But with the way that this team is playing now compared to where they were at with those 2 series, it makes me feel good that we have very, very good chance you have a team that's going to make it back to Oklahoma City this year. Because you might have to not only beat Sam Landry once, but potentially twice in a weekend, and that's not going to be easy. Especially if Audrey Lowry is pitching to the level that she's been over the course of the past week. So, number 2 seed, I think it's incredible. Overall, I'm very happy with the draw. It could be the SEC tournament potentially in Oklahoma City. A&M's the 1 seed, OU's the 2 seed, Florida the 3, Arkansas the 4, James's Florida State Seminoles is at 5, Texas is at 6, Tennessee at 7, South Carolina at 8. A lot of SEC flavor in the top 8. OU actually 12-4 against top 8 teams and swept 3 of them. How about that? Swept 3 of the teams in the postseason top 8. Swept the Arkansas Razorbacks in Fayetteville, swept the Texas Longhorns in Norman, swept South Carolina without Sam Landry, right, in Norman to open up SEC play. Now, if there is a complaint about OU's draw, it's, the 3 teams that they lost to, or I guess the 3 series, I should say, that they lost in the SEC, they're all on your side of the bracket. Just talked about Alabama, might have to face Tennessee, first game in Oklahoma City, and Florida's on the same side of you as well. And to that, I simply say, bring it on, man. Again, with what I said about OU in a bounce-back spot, I feel the same way against Tennessee. I feel the same way against Florida. Yes, potentially facing that Tennessee pitching first game in Oklahoma City won't be easy, but guess what Tennessee has to say? We might have to face Oklahoma. In Oklahoma City in the first game of the Women's College World Series. So we can think about it that way, but we got to think about it the way that they think about it as well. We might have to face Sam Landry in Oklahoma City if we make it to OKC the very first game. I like the overall draw, and as much as you say, we'd have to face a team here. We'd have to face a team here in Oklahoma City. Nothing is a guarantee. It could be an absolutely crazy tournament. I think it's going to be. I think that we could see multiple upsets in regionals this week. Man, this is a lot of fun to talk about. I cannot wait until Friday, until it gets here and the action starts for the Oklahoma Sooners. What do you guys think? How you feeling? As always, drop your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.